What up guys, Plock the Master Gamer here, and today we're going to be looking at all 12 of the silver key chests in Fable. So right now we're playing Fable Anniversary, but of course this applies to Fable The Lost Chapters as well. This does also technically apply to the original, but there's two chests, the Necropolis and the Lost Bay chest, that of course will not apply to the original version of the game because they don't exist. But without further ado, let's get into it, starting with number 1. So first on our list we have the 5 key chest in Greatwood Lake. This one is pretty easy to find and pretty easy to get to, but there's usually some sort of enemy right there. And you get an elixir of life. Not really the greatest thing ever. You can definitely find a lot of these in a lot of places. Still useful nonetheless. And let's move on to the next one. Next chest on our list is in Hob Cave. It's a little bit out of the way, but it's not too hard to find. For this one, you're just going to go into this little door on the left here. So that's going to be this one right here on the map, the cave larder area. And much like the one before, there's going to be at least some amount of enemies next to this one, but it's not really too much of a problem. And this one is going to contain the other elixir, the Willmaster's elixir. Again, nothing too special. You can kind of just find these sitting around, but nonetheless, it's still a useful potion. And that is the last of the 5 key chests, and on to the first of the 10 key chests. This next chest is at the Greyhouse, and once again, it is the first of the 10 key chests. And somehow, despite the fact that it's a 10 key chest, it actually has arguably a worse prize than the 5 key chests. And it's a sharpening augmentation. Definitely one of the more useful augmentations, I gotta say. I don't know if it's quite worthy of a silver key chest, let alone a 10 silver key chest. So kind of a weird one, but still a useful thing, I guess. And we will move on to the last 10 key chest. Now this key chest is unfortunately probably the furthest away of all the key chests because it's at the Circle of the Dead, which means we're gonna have to do some walking, but it's not too bad, so I think we can pull it off. And once again, despite being a 10 key chest, it is somehow even worse than the last one because this one contains a piercing augmentation, which isn't entirely useless, but it's pretty close to useless as far as augmentations are concerned. So, you know, would definitely prefer sharpening augmentation. I would definitely prefer not to get such a crappy augmentation in a silver key chest, but it is what it is. Interesting choice on the developer's behalf, but at least it's something, right? And now we will move on to the first of the 15 silver key chests. Now this next one isn't very difficult to get to, but it is going to require a little bit of work on your behalf because it is in Lady Grey's bedroom, which means you're either going to have to marry Lady Grey or become the mayor before you can access this one. I've already married Lady Grey. That's probably the better route to take, honestly, and we're going to go grab this. Now luckily, despite the fact that it is quite the effort to get to, it is actually quite worth it, as this one is probably a fan favorite, honestly, as it contains the Katana, which is a legendary weapon that happens to be the strongest katana in the game, which means that it's pretty much one of the strongest light weapons in the entire game, short of the Sword of Aeons. So definitely a really good weapon, and you can actually get it fairly early on in the game. You can pretty much get it as soon as you're done with the arena. So as far as not glitching the game is concerned, it's one of the best weapons you can get, and you can get it halfway through the game. So pretty decent. But anyways, on to the next 15 key chest. Now this next one isn't very difficult to get to either, but it is a pretty late game item, so its usefulness is slightly limited in that regard, but it does actually contain one of my favorite weapons in the game, and this one contains the Murrin Great Axe, which is the legendary Great Axe, and that makes it the strongest Great Axe in the game. And it's just overall a pretty cool design. And if I understand correctly, I believe this is the axe that your mother is holding in her statue in the graveyard. It might be like the one she's holding in the arena statue or something like that. Yeah, I think that's the one. Pretty cool weapon, one of my favorites, and let's move on to the next one. All right, so this next one is in Greatwood Lake. So once again, you're gonna have to deal with some enemies probably. And it is about as deep into Greatwood as you can get. Kind of unfortunate to get to, but it does happen to be another banger of a weapon, because this one contains the strongest crossbow in the game, Arkan's Crossbow. So definitely worth the walk. Pretty damn good weapon. Honestly, not one of my favorites. I tend to prefer the bows over the crossbows, but if you like the crossbows in this game, can't go wrong. Strongest crossbow in the game, so pretty damn good if you ask me. And let's move on to the next one. So this next one is in the Witchwood Cavern. So if you remember the Find the Archaeologist quest, where you have to mess with the little stones and spell hits or whatever, right? It's in that cave. So yeah, pretty much part of the main quest. You kind of can't miss it. It's a pretty decent one. It's definitely useful. It's a health augmentation, so it's definitely not bad as far as augmentations are concerned, but I tend to prefer the mana augmentation. It's definitely a pretty damn good thing to get out of the chest, so can't really complain there. And speaking of mana, let's move on to the next and last 15 key chest. So this next one is in Headsmans Cave, and ironically, it's actually another one that you have to marry Lady Grey for, because it requires you to fight Thunder during the Marry Lady Grey quest in order to get down here. So it's kind of an interesting one, but it does actually contain the better of the two augments, the mana augmentation, so definitely worth the struggle to get to this one. I think this is the earliest you can achieve a mana augmentation. Yeah, definitely worth it in that regard, because it's pretty much, again, the halfway point that you can start this quest. And so it ends up being about the halfway point that you could get yourself a mana augmentation, and that's pretty damn good as far as mana augmentations are concerned. That being said, there are some ways to glitch in here if you have not done the quest. So I think there's like a recall glitch that'll get you spawned in here during a recall, and then there's another one you can assassin rush glitch through the demon door. So there's a couple ways to get in here if you haven't done the quest, but I'm not going to get into those too deeply here. But yeah, with that being said, that is the last of the 15 key chests, and we will move on to the 20 key chest. Alright, so this next one is in the guild, and you've probably seen this one during your training, but it's just sitting right here, right next to the melee training arena, so not very difficult to find at all. And if you are playing the original version of the game, so the non-Lost Chapters, non-anniversary version of the game, this is actually the end of the road as far as silver key chests are concerned. The 20 silver key chest is the biggest and baddest, and it actually contains what is probably one of, if not my favorite weapons in the game, and it's the Murrin Great Hammer. And it's of course the legendary Great Hammer. It ends up being the best Great Hammer in the game, and I just think it's an overall really cool weapon. Let's just take a look at this thing, because it is my favorite. Kind of wish it was brighter out, but yeah, you know, pretty dang cool weapon. It's got quite a presence to it. It's hard not to like this thing. It's an absolute thumper, and I think it's got, what, an experience augmentation on it, some other stuff. Regardless, really damn good weapon, and yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is the first of the Lost Chapters only key chests, and it's the 25 key chest. So this next silver key chest is in Necropolis, and honestly, it is the best silver key chest in the entire game. Personally, I don't know why they made this one a 25 silver key chest. I think this one should have been the 30 key chest, but you gotta wade your way through a bunch of enemies to get to this one. It is definitely worth the trouble to get here. And this, of course, is the Archon's battle armor, which is the strongest armor in the entire game. It's actually stronger than normal plate mail. That, and it actually comes with its own natural helmet set, so it ends up being a pretty damn good armor set overall. And it looks pretty damn awesome too. According to the lore, this thing is made out of platinum. Pretty damn cool. Basically looks the exact same as the plate mail. It's just got a slightly different texture to it. It's like kind of somewhere between the bright plate and the standard plate. Watch out for this guy. But yeah, definitely the best silver key chest in the entire game. Definitely worth the struggle to get those 25 silver keys. And in my opinion, this is where you should probably stop as far as your silver key journey is concerned. I honestly don't even recommend collecting all 30 keys, just because this next silver key chest is just so disappointing for how many silver keys it takes. And finally, the last one, the 30 key chest, is in the Lost Bay, and the one redeeming quality of it is that it is a pretty good reference actually. And technically, I think they kind of drank the coffee before it was cool on this one or whatever. But it's actually a reference to the Avengers and Thanos with the 6 Infinity Stones, because you get the legendary sword, the Avenger, as well as all 6 gemstones in the game. You get a diamond, an emerald, a ruby, a jet, a sapphire, and an amethyst. This is supposedly a reference, and the name of the sword is kind of the giveaway here. It is a reference to, well, the Avengers and the 6 Infinity Stones, which, I mean, you gotta give it to them. That's a pretty good reference. And and that is quite redeeming of it, but overall the Avenger is really not that great of a weapon. The Katana Huryu is a better weapon, Sword of Aeons is a better weapon, and pretty much almost every other legendary weapon ends up being a better weapon. So in the legendary weapon department, it ends up being quite the disappointment, and for that reason, for most playthroughs, I don't even collect all 30 silver keys. I just collect 25 and call it a day. It's a lot easier to collect 25 silver keys than it is to collect every single one of them, so if I can save myself some of the struggle on some of the more bullshit silver keys, I'll definitely just collect the 25, get the Archon's battle armor, and call it a day, because you really don't need anything more than that. The best reward you can get out of silver key chests is going to be the Archon's battle armor, and it's just really not worth it to open the 30 key chest. If you're trying to 100% the game, or you're trying to get all the achievements or whatever, that's one thing, but on any other playthrough where stuff like that doesn't matter, completely skip it. Don't even get all 30 keys. Like, call it a day after 25. I'm telling you, is the way to go. You just don't need all 30 keys. You don't need that 30 key chest. Anyways, that is it. That is every single silver key chest in Fable, Fable the Lost Chapters, Fable Anniversary, the original Fable, whichever version you're playing, every silver key chest should be covered in this video. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys found it useful. If you did find it useful, make sure to leave a like. I definitely find that useful. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel if you want to check out any more of this Fable content or any of my other gaming content for that matter. And yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.